Hello and welcome back to Making Home Better. Over the past many videos that you've probably seen on the channel, I've been teasing an outdoor kitchen for some time now. Well, it's time to get this done. The backyard has been coming along very good. We have the patio built. Pergola that I'm standing under is done and finished. We have the fire pit built. It is a great setup that we're using continuously now. My intention all along has been to build a outdoor kitchen setup to go along with this to complete the whole process. And today we're gonna get started on. We had a place set aside when we built the patio for this with the natural gas line already built in. I had already purchased a Weber Summit grill, which is a built-in grill that kind of rolls as well. I was also able to find a really good deal on a Hestan side burner, which is usually ridiculously expensive, but I got a really good deal on it, which we're going to put in. Have some access doors. All in all, it's going to come together. It should be the perfect setup for us to even further enjoy our backyard and our patio. Overall, the process for this build should be very similar to the fire pit that you see behind me. The construction, the materials, a lot of it is going to be the same, except for this is going to be a lot more intricate with the design, as it needs to accept many more parts into it, like the door, the barbecue, the side burner, all that. So it's just a little more complicated, but the build itself should be very similar. So do check out that video as well. That'll give you even further tips on how to execute this. So I hope you give it a shot. If you have any questions, leave us a comment. I'll leave in the description all the tools and the products that I use so that you can also do the same. If you enjoy this type of content, and if you feel one of my projects can help you make your home better, do subscribe. Looking to share more with you in the future. Thank you for watching. I use SketchUp as usual for the design process. It's not really necessary. You can certainly forego this and go directly into the build, but it certainly helps me imagine things a little bit better, work out some of the bugs from the design. As you can see, I've been along with a few different iterations, and what was most important is to take into account the thickness of the various materials so that it actually fits into the area that we had scoped for the barbecue area. Especially creating the stud layout was very helpful for me to imagine the whole process. Put out some of the most essential components for the initial part of the build here. So we got our 20 gauge metal steel studs, and we're gonna secure those using these 3/4 inch self-tapping metal to metal screws. Speed square, that's gonna be used to cut. Some markers to mark our lines. We got a clamp so that you can clamp the two pieces of metal studs together to screw it in. We got some tin snips, and we have an angle grinder with a metal cutting wheel. Of course, we're gonna need a drill, and for later on, we also have stone cutting wheel. This is gonna be needed for the tiles later. The general process for building the steel frame involved cutting the metal studs using either tin snips or an angle grinder. For the most part, the angle grinder was much easier, but there were certain instances where the tin snips came in very handy. I am certainly not a content creator or one of those big YouTube channels. Everything that I do on this channel are things that I just learn how to do and get it done. So I am confident this is something that you can also do to further enhance your backyard, something that'll make your home better. Once all the pieces were cut to the proper dimension per the plan, which may differ for you, they were joined together with the help of a speed square to keep everything square, a clamp to hold the pieces together, and drilling it using the self-tapping screws. I'm building the frame in my garage. I have all my tools there, but in the meantime I am dry fitting it here on site just to make sure that everything is still matching to the dimensions that are on the patio. All right, so the back wall is ready to go. We still have to put in the studs, but at least that much is good to go. And now we'll move on to creating these center structures. So we need 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. This is not exactly a very difficult process, but given the size of the project, it was very lengthy and tedious at times. And I found myself thinking many times that this would be so much more simpler if I were just using 2x4s. While 2x4s may have worked out just fine for this project, given that this is a barbecue area and there's going to be heat nearby, I wanted to go the safe route and make sure and use metal studs for the framing. This side of the barbecue is gonna get a access door, so we need to add some vertical support, vertical stud to accept the door. So I already put one in on this side. We're gonna put one more in on this side here. Just like many things, I don't know if this is the right way to do it, but to attach this horizontal piece, I'm gonna make a little cut into this piece and bend it over so I can attach it with screws. Out of the build so far, this by far was the trickiest. To get the dimensions right, to have the side burner fit in exactly here, and to get a frame that you can properly screw the D-Rock into in all areas. It was a lot of planning, a lot of thinking, a lot of redoing. This took far too long, far longer than what I expected. We'll add a Trex board, a 1-inch Trex board to the bottom of the structure throughout. This is so that it's elevated a little bit, provides ventilation inside, as well as gives it a nice surface to sit on the patio so that the metal doesn't scratch up the patio. In total, I ended up using 5 boards of D-Rock to completely wrap the barbecue enclosure. For the large pieces, I used a jigsaw to cut them into the dimensions that I needed. For the smaller pieces, I used a box cutter to core the D-Rock and then snap them and cut them from the other side. This was not very difficult, and overall it did not take too long to wrap the full barbecue enclosure. Next step is to cover all the seams using a cement board joint tape. This will fill all the cracks and adhere the two pieces together, and I'll apply that using some thin set to go over it. The built-in barbecue enclosure is actually going to be sitting just a few feet away from the fire pit that I built some time ago. When I purchased the tiles for the fire pit, I had bought extra material so I can use it for this build as well. These are stone tiles arranged in a pattern, and I use a segmented diamond blade in my angle grinder to make the cuts. Due to the doors that I added on the bottom as well as the side burner, this meant that there were several cuts involved in making sure that the tile fit in properly. This certainly took some additional effort, but I think it adds to the overall beauty of the outdoor barbecue area. To secure it, I used a thin set. I used a notch trowel to put the thin set onto the D-Rock, as well as back butter each of the pieces so that you get a nice suction and adhesion for the tile. For the smaller tile pieces that go around all the cut areas, I actually did the notch trowel on the tile itself and back buttered the D-Rock. This made it a little bit easier given that you're working in smaller areas. Both the barbecue enclosure area where the barbecue grill slides in, as well as for the side burner area, I will not be covering these areas with tile, and for this reason the D-Rock needs to be protected from moisture, from rain. So I will be covering that with the waterproof roll-on product, also from D-Rock. This can be just brushed on and should provide some protection from water. Now these areas are not direct exposure of the rain as it's covered by the barbecue and the side burner, but I still wanted to add some additional protection by covering it with this waterproof membrane. Now that the barbecue enclosure is completed, the next step and the last major remaining step is to build the concrete countertop. This is going to look very similar to the fire pit countertop. It's going to be made out of cementol, and it's going to be cast upside down in melamine form so that we can get a nice smooth finish. The forms themselves are made out of 3/4 inch melamine. Some of mine were slightly less than 3/4 of an inch. They will have a depth of 2 total inches. I'm going to cast it in 3 separate pieces as this is pretty big and I don't have a way to move it around when it's this big, and also with concrete there's certain to be cracked, and I'm hoping that having it in 3 separate pieces gives us some flexibility. 2 out of the 3 pieces are essentially square/rectangles, but the last piece where the side burner is requires a notch to be there in the middle and 11 inch so that in. To prepare for the concrete pour, I'm going to use the same method borrowed from the YouTube channel Modestrial Maker. I did it with the fire pit and it worked seamlessly. I will go over it again. Essentially, you start off by having a clean form. Then you place some paste wax over the corners. On top of the paste wax, you would do silicone to seal all the edges. This also gives it a nice round profile when the concrete is flipped over. And you go over the wet silicone using a fondant tool. This leaves nice 2 grooves on both sides. You let the silicone dry. Once it's fully dried, you can come back and peel off those 2 side pieces and it leaves a nice clean edge. This is significantly better than using your finger to smooth it out or anything of that sort. I've tried other methods before, but by far this is the best method. Once the silicone is all dry and nice and clean, before you mix the cementol, I will spray the entire form using WD-40. Just a nice thin layer of WD-40 just as a releasant so that the form and the concrete will separate once dry. Rapid set cementol works extremely fast, so it's very important that we have all the things ready to go to mix it. I am going to use flow control so that the mixture runs easily into the molds, and also set control so that I get a little extended time period to work with. But still, it's very important that everything is put together. I'm gonna try to do 4 mixture at the same time. I have a drill mixer here to mix trowel to clean up the top. I have a measuring for the water. I'm gonna use 3.5 quarts of water per bag. I also have a pump mixer so that I can keep the molds wet. So it's important to wet cure the concrete while it's drying. As soon as you start setting, you need to keep it wet so that you can properly cure at the desired rate rather than too quickly and causing concrete that's not strong or a countertop that's not strong. These slabs were extremely heavy to move. I had to get help from 5 more people to get it over here. I am extremely glad that it was made into 3 separate pieces, as otherwise there's no way I could have moved this. Straight out of the mold, this has come out fairly smooth. I'm going to still do a little bit of sanding to get it smoother and also get rid of all the silicone on the corners. But overall, it's in great shape. I would say very minimal bubbles. There are bubbles, but very minimal. Unfortunately, I did not capture a video, but I went and sanded the concrete using these various sanding grits all the way from 100 up to 1500. It leaves it with a nice smooth finish on the concrete. We're using Chang concrete countertop sealer. This is something that I've used in the past before, fairly easy to use. It's water-based and food grade, so very easy to apply. Basically, I'm going to thin it down to about 1/3 of the sealer and 2/3 water. Flood it, let it penetrate in, wipe it off, and I'm going to do consecutive coats until it's fully penetrated, each time trying to increase the amount of sealer to water ratio, with the final one being all sealer. Overall, I am very satisfied with the results from the sealing. There is a little bit of streaking going on, but I think it'll just blend in over time. There's also these couple of spots where I can notice here, which I believe is just the rebar went too far down. So that's something to be careful about when you're working on your project. to do the gas connection for the side burner. The Weber has a built-in spot for that, so I'm just gonna tap off of this. Time to make this grill into a built-in grill with the accessories that Weber provided along with the Weber Summit. This is a great option if you want a rolling barbecue grill that fits into a built-in loop. Here we go. It certainly took some time, but finally it's done. If you have questions, leave it in the comments and I'll certainly try to do my best to answer. Hope you enjoyed this. Do consider subscribing. I appreciate the views. Take care.